Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here, basically, we are discussing about one topic, that is the currencies. And in currencies, basically, we are discussing about one topic, that is the dependency. Independency. It's ideas equal to global warming error. Basically, lots of people say that global warming is error, basically, but it's not error. Basically, somebody is trying to solve the problem. But news channel basically has done the advertising as a error, basically. But it might be some idea, basically, of some group, basically, that we can save the, at least, basically, we can save some education sector, basically. Reason in future, basically, if anything basically connects to the education, basically error in the planet's creation. But mostly planet when gets creates, basically, then basically everything is filtered only, basically. So lots of people basically say that basically whenever the things are getting created, energy groups basically directly connects to the education sector, and then basically they solve the problem, basically. But then also basically 20 percentage basically are there, like this, basically things are basically there. So like this, in we are actually seeing the incidents, basically. Here the 12th point is solution, basically, of the cities creation, basically. So in city creation, basically, earthquakes are basically connected with the cities only. Cities are created from the 22 blood groups. So 22 blood groups basically has created the cities, basically, and incidents basically happens. For example, one person told that basically, do you know basically how the incidents are basically defined? Then he told that for that basically we have created lots of country, na, basically, like Canada is there. This type of things basically only those country can create, where entire place is cool, basically. Cool means everywhere basically ice should be there, because computer is going to process lots of things, and lots of communication is going to happen across the world. That this area basically we are finishing, so is your this area is connected with your area, like this, basically you have to communicate with the entire country, basically. Yeah, lots of countries basically you have to communicate like this, basically. Only ice group basically can do this, basically. That is Russian group. One is Canadian group, basically, that is name given as a Canada. And then basically mostly UAE also group is basically are there. And then basically Russian groups basically are there, basically. US group is always there, basically, in front of the world, basically. So like this, basically, 4 to 5 countries basically are there, basically, who basically designs the earthquakes equal to incidents. So these incidents basically are designed on the base of earthquakes. And what is that incidents and earthquake? This topic basically we have discussed long before, basically. Long before, basically, we have discussed that earthquakes basically, if yeah, and earthquakes basically are connected to the cities, and cities are connected with that 22 blood groups, basically. In these 22 blood groups, these 200 people basically doesn't comes into the picture, basically. Why? Because they have fired from the 22 blood groups, basically. So their decision, basically, that is the new matrix, basically, which is generated, basically, because they have already fired, na, basically. This group, basically 22 blood groups, have already fired them, basically. These 22 blood groups basically are already fired, basically. So 22 blood group means around 900 crore, basically. 22 blood groups means 900 crore, basically. So they fired, actually. So like this, basically, earthquakes are equal to incidents. Incidents are basically designed by, that means that the Canada group, the Russian group, then the Chinese group, then the Bangalore group. Basically, Bangalore groups basically are, Bangalore group is like equal to good into the nature, basically. Natural, basically, items basically are there, so there basically are, the places are basically very cool, basically. Then Mumbai city is also the basically there, because it's near to sea, so there basically the environment is basically like cool, basically. So like this, basically, the Russian country, USA country, they only basically can design this earthquakes equal to incidents, basically. And incidents basically are designed only, basically, by long before, basically, somebody might have designed. And in this, basically, World Bank group, basically, by default they are involved. Why? Because money is involved. So money basically is connected with the cities basically. And in this basically we have told that basically World Bank is connected. So by default World Health Organization also are connected basically. Because they have, if they are finishing this city basically, then basically, for example, Gaza's city basically has been, sorry, Gaza country has, somebody has finished their country, right? Basically, half of the country basically they have finished. That basically news channel is telling basically. So like this, basically the World Bank, sorry, the World Bank and the World Health Organization basically, they have to chain according to the that basically that this many cities basically has finished. For example, from Gaza, assume that basically somebody is creating badam, some software company is creating badam, some software company is creating kaju, or some software company is creating anjeer. Like this basically, that is going to affect basically. Few people says that basically that Gaza prepares this, Gaza prepares, but there might be some backup also basically. It's not like that the backup might not be there basically. But one country basically has finished. So demand and supply of the dry fruits 100% going to get effect basically. By default it's like that basically. Because the production is going to become less basically. Here basically we assume that basically Gaza everything basically is connected with some software companies basically, they have invested and they have created the cities and they have connected with some software basically, and they have, which is producing some energy, that basically energy is converted into the dry fruits. So taking just an example basically, really it might not be there basically, but just to take the example I have taken like this basically. So like this incidents are the basically there, and incidents basically are what basically, that who designs that also basically we have discussed, and how they designs that basically is on the base of the blood groups basically. And blood groups by default are connected with the doctors and the energy department basically. So now here the decision is, no, how here the question is basically, who actually decides that basically this city has to end? Is it doctors group or basically it's the energy group basically? That's very dangerous question basically, because doctors group basically might basically say that basically, yeah, we are not able to solve this problem, we are not able to find the medicine. That is the R&D section basically, R&D section. Because they are telling that basically we are trying to merge all the selection, that is for example, one person told that basically this is the disease and currently basically we have these all cities basically, if we can do the matrix and we can do some calculation, chemistry, this that basically calculation, and on the base of this basically we can find some medicine basically, then basically it's okay. Otherwise basically we can create some new formulas according to the existing city and the new city, then basically we can able to find the medicine, if we can find that basically according to the current and new cities basically which might create. And that formula basically only nuclear power company can give this. Why? Because nuclear power company only have the data that existing city basically, sorry, the new city which we can create, up to what level the data we have basically. So according to that all basically they checks the data, and then only basically they take the decision whether if the city can be repaired or basically not, whether it can, but then basically the city basically gets finished basically. That decision mostly basically doctors takes, or basically the universe, the energy groups take, that basically is very question basically. But here basically the energy department plays the main role. Reason, city creation is the part of the energy group department, and new city which is going to create basically, that is also the decision of the energy department. But energy department will say like that basically, we are not handling this 22 blood groups basically. That basically they literally they say like that basically. So who is responsible for what basically, that's very difficult to say basically. Why? Because doctors handles the 22 blood groups and the cities basically are handled by the energy groups basically. Then who basically are responsible for the city end, that basically is very difficult to say actually. And few people says that who creates the human needs, they are responsible, like this basically. Each and every people basically say like this basically. So in next video basically we are going to see the little bit more about this, that is the 12th number topic.